Yeah, just a couple of quick points. I think it is important, you know, and it's not highlighted in the leaflet, but it's certainly highlighted on Facebook, that there is this, if you like, emergency provisions for people who want to organise something in a hurry to give 3 days notice. And I have a difficulty with it being 3 days, but I would also have a difficulty if it was 3 minutes. Because it's a right. It is not a privilege which the state chooses to dispense or chooses to withhold. It is simply not. 3 days, 3 minutes, it is meaningless. It's meaningless in the thing. And I want to give an example of it, of the force that we would be asking to dispense this privilege. There was a protest outside the BBC that took place last year when they invited the BNP onto Question Time. Now, some people in the room would have been on that protest. People were outside the BBC, and there was a group of people stood opposite the people who were protesting against the BBC, and they stood opposite and, you know, sort of flags. Some of them gave Nazi salutes. As people from the minority ethnic community passed by, they were racially abused. One person was arrested at that protest, and the one person who was arrested is standing in front of you. It was me. And the reason I was arrested is because in order to diffuse the situation and move people away from where this was taking place after our protest was finished, we had the audacity to go into the road. Now, once you go into the road, of course, you then do fall under the current parades legislation. And that was used in order to scoop me and summarily arrest me. So, obviously, if this legislation is passed, I wouldn't have ever got my feet onto the road. I would have been arrested the moment I had stood outside the BBC. As soon as the 49th person had joined me, I would have been committing an offence at that stage. I also want to mention something, you know, already on Facebook, I think there's about 2,600, that's what it was when I left, but it's going at the rate of a couple of hundred people a day. And you get a real indication of what collective, you know, means, the skills that people have, the imagination that people have, you know, have, all the posters, all the posts that have been put up. I don't know if the person's here in the room, but somebody made a fantastic point. They give a section of the Special Powers Act, a little section of that act. Now, I think in the whole history of the state, the Special Powers Act would be regarded as the most repressive legislation that was ever passed here. But the section that they put in was a section that very clearly said nothing in this act will be relevant to trade unionists in the exercise of their trade union duties. And the point that the person made is that our current administration is looking to pass through legislation that is even more repressive than the most repressive legislation that was ever passed through by the British state. And I think that that is a very, very important point to make, and I commend the person who did it. So I just, in terms of what everybody here knows, it has to be beaten, it has to be smashed into the dirt. If we don't smash it into the dirt, then they will smash us into the dirt, and we cannot let that happen.
I'll be very brief because we do start repeating ourselves at this stage. I think one of the important things is that when you look at what, and it's been emphasised tonight, when you look at what other countries have, what citizens of other countries have, and generally will have the right to protest without having to go through such procedures and process and restrictions, I think it's very clear when it's made obvious to the rest of the people who aren't aware of this that they should be greatly concerned and they should be joining us in this campaign against this legislation. So the rights of people in this part of the world are going to be, we're not going to be second-class citizens, we're going to be basically no citizens at all, because if a citizen hasn't got the right to protest whenever the situation arises, but if they have to wait a month or a month and a half to do that, it negates the whole issue of citizenship at all. And basically what we will be citizens without rights, in other words, not citizens at all. Really, it's a form of imprisonment, so it is. It's a form of political imprisonment, whereby the powers that be here are introducing legislation which stops people standing up for their rights, which restricts our ability to get onto the streets, to protest about issues and decisions which are being made by our political masters. And in that sense, you can see, particularly coming into a time of significant public spending cuts on the tax on ordinary working people, that this legislation is going to be used in order to stifle any dissent and any opposition whatsoever. So it's important, I think, that we do build on tonight's proceedings, and there's a good atmosphere here and a good sort of camaraderie among people, even with people with different points of view. But I think when we need to reduce this down to the fact this is a major attack on our civil liberties and our democratic rights as well.